you have to be a people watcher. Standing your service drive. And I don't mean standing your service drive for an hour. I mean standing your service drive for a few days. Stand in there a lot. Be repetitive without people knowing when you're going to be standing in the service drive, so they all of a sudden act differently. But understand what people do when they don't realize you're watching. If you're in your drive enough, you become just like everything else. You're just there. You're a desk, your furniture, whatever. You're part of the surroundings. People stop acting like they're going to the principal's office, and they start losing that focus, and they turn to their everyday routine. And that's when you can see who's doing what they should be.
Welcome to the Strategy with Jason podcast. Tune in for everything you need to know regarding the automotive industry. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Hey, what's going on, Automotive Nation? It's Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining me on another episode of the Golden Wrench podcast, where I get to talk to, well, anybody and everybody I want to talk to when it comes to the fixed ops side of the business. And boy, I got a guest for you guys today. I am so excited. It's for you and for me, actually. We have a great guest. It's going to be awesome. We're going to talk about all kinds of fun stuff. But hey, we can't do cool content like this without our sponsor. And here's a quick message from our sponsor.
For years, I've been saying that you have to process your way to profitability, and no one knows that better than the folks at Repair 360. You all know how important it is to have a fast, streamlined used car reconditioning process. Remember, time kills profit. Getting a used car frontline ready in less time while providing transparent communication between departments is what Repair 360 is all about. With Repair 360's automated used car recon manager, you will drive recon times down while giving sales the visibility they need to stop complaining. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding about that part. Anyways, you have to check out their website at repair360.com and see how they can revolutionize your reconditioning process.
All right, guys, I'm back. Okay, I told you guys someone special. I have the one, the only, the oh so famous. He paid me to say it. Joe Chambers with me. What's going on, Joe? How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Jason. Thanks for having me here. It's been I've been watching it for a while, and I've been looking forward to this. So thank you so much.
I know. You know what I was thinking about this, before I started recording, I was like, I've been kind of like a fanboy from a distance. And I'm like, I know one of these days, we talked about it a few times.
We have, yeah.
I'm like, one of these days we'll just find a time, we'll record. It's going to be like the best time ever. And look, I know you have tremendous love, all right, for that department that gets very little. And I do too. So that's why I'm just excited that we just get to come on here and just, talk shop, ironically. But here, Joe, here's what I'd like to do. I love kicking off these podcasts with a little origin story. Because I'm fundamentally fascinated how people just kind of like get into the business, because like I said earlier, I don't believe anybody just wakes up one day and goes, yeah, that's where I'll spend a lifelong career. So if you don't mind, Joe, let's start there. How in the world did you get started in this crazy little world we call the automotive industry?
Well, like so many other people, I started at the bottom, and it was because it was a cool gig out, after high school. I was working part-time, going to high school, and it was, who wouldn't want to drive Corvettes all day, every night looking at new cars. That's what I wanted to do. And I was a big car nut back then. And I decided that, hey, this might be something, but then I went to college.
Yeah.
Then I went to college. I was still working, I've been working straight through. And then I really realized I can make a lot of money in the car business.
Right.
Without, the whole degree mess and everything like that. I can make money now. So I started making money. I stuck with it. There's been ups, there's been downs, but it's in my blood, and I am super passionate about talking about service. And I think you were talking about the department that nobody wants to talk about. Was that parts?
Yeah, that one, right? The redheaded stepchild of all the departments. No, I'm just kidding. You know what? It's funny, Joe. I actually kind of got similar to you, right? Like, I started working at a car dealership, and I was detailing. I was actually detailing, right? A guy comes back and he goes, "Hey, it's a cool truck. What do you know about it?" And I'm like, "Well, I just finished detailing it. And like you, I was a car guy. So I'm telling him everything about this truck. And it's got this. And it's got that." And he goes, "It's great. I'll take it." I'm like, I got like a dirty rag in my hand. Well, let me go get a salesman. No. I want to buy it from you. And I was like, okay. So, I walk into the sales manager office. They don't even know who the hell I am. Who are you? I'm like, well, I just sold a truck. What are you talking about? Well, the one that's in the detail shop, the one you guys just took in, I just finished it up. Guy wants to buy it right now. And here's his credit card.
No kidding.
Yeah. And he's like, well, shit, I guess you're a salesperson now.
Yeah.
Here's a worksheet. Go get his information. Dude, that's literally how I got started. Anyways, but similar to you, I did try the university thing for like a little bit and then realized I was making more money than my professors were. And I was like,
yeah, it was crazy. I was 16 years old and had a key to a dealership.
Right? Like, how awesome is that?
Who thinks about that?
Well, obviously the people that hired us, and thank God that they did. And my first mentor, and he recently just passed away. Actually, just found out like a few months ago that he passed away. And it was like, for giving some, kid, a wild shot, and said, all right, we'll give you a shot. And now here both of us are decades later. Is it weird that we say decades?
It's very weird we say decades.
Is that so weird or what? Anyways, I digress. All right, man, let's get into this because I think we got some cool topics and I'm super excited to dive into these specifically with you. And our first one, dude, couldn't be more timely. Like I said, I just got back from doing this monster round of dealer visits over like a 6 to 8 week period. And we just need to see more of this, but we need to focus on leadership in fixed ops. That was your statement. I know there's some thoughts behind it, so I'm gonna let you kind of kick this off. When you say that, or when you hear that, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
It's education and training. We don't in the automotive industry. We don't talk about leadership enough, and when we do, it's people that don't need to talk about leadership. It's the folks we have to educate. The people coming up behind us, and we have to teach them not only about the numbers, because I was talking about effective labor rate today, the most simplest thing ever, and there were some people in the room that didn't understand it.
Yep.
Shame on me, I have to explain that. But we don't do enough of that in the industry. We take the best service advisor and we throw him keys. We throw him the office, right? Here you go. He has no idea how to run a shop. He has no idea how to talk to people, which is paramount to everything else. We don't put any money into leadership training. We'll train the sales staff to talk to customers, which is more than anybody ever does for the service staff. And if you're not trained on how to talk to customers, you're never going to be trained on how to talk to employees. We need more of that.
You're so right. Actually, I got to be honest with you, Joe. I got a little story to share. All right. So I was exactly that. Okay. My objective was always to own a dealership. So my first mentor told me straight to my face that I needed to work all departments. Okay. So when I left the sales department, making 6 figures a year to go take a $37,000 a year service advisor position, I got a lot of side eyes. But I had a bigger plan.
Right.
But I will tell you this, and the same thing happened, right? I became the top advisor really, really fast. And then what did they do, Joe? Exactly what you did. They tossed keys at me and said, "You're now a manager." And what? No, I got to manage people. Here's the moment, and I think you'll get a kick out of this, when I realized I really didn't know what I was doing. So the first Christmas, all right, I'm overseeing as a service manager. I'm overseeing the department, right? And one of my advisors jokingly knits me a pillow, like a throw pillow or something I put on my couch, right? And it says, "Shut up and get back to work." And everybody thought it was funny. But then, of course, I realized, I'm like, okay, so I say this so often that someone thought it'd be funny to crochet it into a pillow for me. And that's when I realized, Joe, no one taught me how to be a leader. I just did what I saw the previous guy do.
Exactly.
And was just walk around yelling at people to shut and get back to work. Continue, please. I understand what you're saying. I just wanted to add to that.
No, and that's right. And the skill set difference between that number one advisor that gets thrown the keys.
Oh, huge.
And a leader, and I don't even want to call him service manager, because service manager is what's out there right now.
Yes.
That's the mass of, if you walk into a store, pick any store, pick any 10 stores, you walk into 9 of them, you're going to find service managers. You're not going to find leaders. And the service managers, they manage numbers. They hide in their office. What's the first thing that happens when somebody becomes a manager? Well, they get impressed with their own office. And all of a sudden, they have 75 different reports they have to run. They don't know what any of them mean, but they know that they got to run those reports.
Exactly.
If they don't run the reports, the world's going to fall down. Forget about the customers. The customers will wait. Don't worry about your people. Don't worry about any of that. But you know that these reports are important. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Well, because everybody always has stacks of paper on their desk, so they must be important. It's insane. The delta between that management, between true leadership and that brand new service advisor is huge. And the skill set is something we don't concentrate on enough of. And we have to do it. And it's up to us. It's up to guys like me who are in stores right now to teach the upcoming generation what it is to be successful. And thank God somebody took some time with me, because I didn't learn anything on my own. People taught it to me. Thankfully, I was very lucky to have some very good mentors, and I've shared that, and I've shared what they've taught me. Mm-hmm. But I think I'm the exception rather than the rule. We're the 1% of people that actually want to share instead of the 99% that are managers that go and hide in an office doing reports.
Well, and ultimately, that's why we get to do this kind of podcast, right? So we get to talk kind of about this stuff and just be honest, right? Like, guys, like I had to be honest with myself. I was being a dick. All right. I was managing what I was doing. I was managing people the way I just thought you meant it, by yelling at them. Right. I mean, EQ, I had none.
What's EQ?
Empathy, dude. I came from the side of automotive that was, suck it up, buttercup, check it at the door. All right. Leave your shit at home. Don't bring it to work.
Yep.
And that was just like, that's how I thought you led with this iron fist. You walked around just beating on stuff like a gorilla or something like that. Nobody showed me anything differently. And I was lucky enough to have my own little epiphany. But I could have just continued down that route for a very long period of time. In fact, both of us have seen people do exactly that, and still 20 years later, they're still walking around like gorillas.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny you mentioned your own little epiphany, that aha moment. I was a service manager, and I was a successful service manager, and they sold the dealership. I didn't want to stay on with the new folks, lots of reasons, but they wanted me to do some things that were unethical. So I'm like, you know what? I'm an experienced service manager. I am going to make this happen. I can go out and get a job easily. Well, guess what? I couldn't. I couldn't land a job as a service manager. Took a job as a service advisor. I know what I'm doing. I was a service advisor for a brief time, and I've been a manager. I know everything. Well, I was a service manager. I was a service advisor, and I was miserable. And because I thought I was better than the role, and I thought this should come easy to me. I'm a manager. And I got jaded. And it was an ugly time for me. And then one morning I just woke up and I said, you know what, if I'm here, I got a family, I got little kids. My kids were little. I only had 2 of them at the time. I need to do something different. So I had that epiphany. I had that aha moment where I said, you know what, I need to be the best service advisor I can be. And I did. From that point on, I just absolutely dominated. I completely turned my life around, and it opened up a door. And 3 months later, I was a service director. But I think without that epiphany, my life would be a very, very different thing. And I think I needed that downtime to understand what true leadership can do for somebody, because I was lost in my head. Nobody got me out. I had to get myself out. Fortunately, I was able to. But that has always stuck with me.
Dude, that's what happens. I mean, mine came in the form of a pillow. You know what I mean? Like, look, I know I do definitely want to get to our other topics, but I do want to ask you something, because I legitimately want to get your thought and opinions on this. And it's going to go down into pay structures. And I know it's a rabbit hole, dude, that we could totally do like an entire podcast on. But I do have a belief, and I'm just kind of fundamentally interested in kind of your thoughts on it as well, is that the reason that we have one of the reasons, I'm not going to say but one of the reasons that we have managers is that our pay structures are completely built around managing a business and not growing a business. So we never really kind of like the pay structure doesn't really kind of poke or push the individual to ultimately become the leader that they need to be, even though I still think they need a mentor or a coach of some kind to help them through it. But I want to get your thoughts on that. Do you think that's true?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's historic. It's historic in our business that everybody performs up to the level of their pay plan. And if their pay plan is set for, I just got to get to this number, then that's where sandbagging comes in.
100%.
I mean, I remember somebody telling me, dude, don't blow it up too much because you're just going to have to beat that number next year if you're lucky enough to be here. Well, what kind of mindset is that? I want to grow that business. I want to win these customers. And then but the idea of winning customers somehow gets convoluted into CSI. Well, your CSI scores are good, so you're definitely winning customers. No, that's not winning customers. You're not growing the business because you get good CSI scores. Now, all you're doing is kissing butt right now on metrics, on numbers. You're playing numbers. To honestly grow the business, there aren't too many pay plans, to your point, looping back to your point, that are actually set up for somebody to grow the business, to take the time to do it. If pay plans were set up like that, service leadership would get an education in advertising.
Well, yeah. Look, I think you're right. The cream would rise to the top.
Mm-hmm.
Like not everyone, I think, is going to follow suit and become the leaders that they ultimately need to become. All right, but yes, your education, your knowledge, your fundamental understanding of business operations will have to graduate to a bigger field. If you're going to ultimately grow the business. So I hear too often, people complain about the managers, but I'm like, dude, they're doing their job. They're managing. All right, a business, not there to grow a business, which I think is kind of a perfect segue, into kind of our next topic. I loved the statement that you made, right? MPI for your service department. Like, let's take a real moment to inspect, right? Which is, again, another good sign of a leader, right? Is that they're constantly, re-inspecting what they're putting out and seeing if they can make any adjustments for efficiency purposes. Anyways, I'd love to kind of get, when you made that statement, I want to get more of your thoughts on that.
No, and thank you. It's here. All we do is in services, we talk about the MPI, the importance of the MPI. You're building a rapport with the customer. You're inspecting the vehicle. You're making sure it's safe for the customer to drive. You're making sure they can drive their kids to soccer practice, or to get them back and forth to work, or mom to dialysis, or whatever it is. You put all of your efforts into doing that. We train our technicians to do this, and we expect them to do it. And when somebody doesn't do a good MPI, we blast them, and we have to coach them up, and we have these moments so it doesn't happen again, because we can lose. What happens if you don't do a good MPI? Aside from somebody's safety, you lose money, you lose profitability, everything decreases. But we don't stop and look at our own business. And this last week, I was talking with one of my friends in the business, and he was talking about a checkup, and it reminded me of something I had. So I looked in my files, because we're fixed ops guys. We squirrel everything away in something. So I found an MPI sheet for our dealership, for a service department, and it was 37 points. But they were quality points, and you actually had to look at it. Now, I could have pencil whipped my MPI.
Sure.
And what good would that have done?
From the desk?
Yeah, right. I could pencil whip. Yep, mark it off my list. That one's done. But I looked at it, and I think I run a pretty good shop. Well, if I look at my MPI, I've got some recommendations that need immediate attention.
Mm-hmm.
So it caused me to take a look at the business differently, and the correlation between that and the MPI, and making recommendations to both. Who are you making recommendations to when you do an MPI? The owner of the vehicle. I have to make recommendations to the owner of the business, or at least the leader of the business. And in some cases, that's me. In some cases, it's the owner. But we have to do that in order to make sure that everything's running properly, because there's a lot of different systems in your dealership that need attention, and some of them might be working well. And in my MPI, some of them were working well. Some of them were working exceptionally well, but others, not so much. They were marked in yellow instead of green.
You know, I love this idea. Like, I love the visual of it. I'm a very visual person, so give me a checklist and I'm in, right? Like, like I love it. Give me a clipboard, a checklist. I'm like, let's do this. This is great, right? But no, I'm with you though. Look, I've had the opportunity to consult for a lot of different operations over the years, big ones, small ones. I mean, you name it, all across the country. All right, and here's what I've kind of found. In a fixed ops department, you know, if the department's not really running on all cylinders, you know, from a revenue perspective, usually what I find is it's usually one of three areas or a combination of the three areas, right? There's either a people problem, a process problem, or a technology problem. And then I guess fourth is how all three of them should be working together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've always found that when I've gone into a department that's a little out of whack, there's an imbalance in one of those three categories, right? And I found that when I go into a department that's just killing it, the people are just, I mean, there's a different movement to them, right? There's a clearly defined process that they're all beating the same drum to. And then there's technology that's like wrapping it all together and measuring the effectiveness and the execution of it all, right? But I'd love to kind of get your thoughts. If you were to kind of take this, you know, people, process, and technology approach, you know, what questions would be on that MPI? I'm just curious.
Well, I mean, a lot of it goes into the technology and the process, and people are obviously paramount. They're important, and we have to make sure that they're set up. But let's talk about that process for a moment. Mm-hmm. You talked about that department that's kicking ass and taking names and really, really killing it. How are they sustaining that? And are all parts really doing that, or is that what you see on the surface?
Sure.
What I've found is a lot of the processes that you put into place and they function well suffer from some erosion over time.
Of course.
And that process erosion can crush your bottom line. It can crush your efficiency. Mm-hmm. It destroys your efficiencies. And the other thing that can affect that process is the technology. Because here, we just switched multi-point tools. We went from X-Time to SmartPath. Mm-hmm. And I might as well go from CDK to Reynolds. It's that different, and it just completely disrupts your business. But if you don't go into that technology right, and you're not using that technology right, mm-hmm. or you're duplicating technologies and processes, doubling up processes because you don't understand the technology, that's going to be a huge concern, and that should be a red flag on your service department MPI, just like you said. But it is one of those three. And when you start talking about the people, though, you have to be a people watcher.
Yes.
Standing in your service drive. And I don't mean standing in your service drive for an hour. I mean standing in your service drive for a few days. Stand in there a lot. Be repetitive without people knowing when you're going to be standing in the service drive, so they all of a sudden act differently. But understand what people do when they don't realize you're watching. If you're in your drive enough, you become just like everything else. You're just there. You're a desk, your furniture, whatever. You're part of the surroundings. People stop acting like they're going to the principal's office, and they start losing that focus, and they turn to their everyday routine. And that's when you can see who's doing what they should be.
Well, no, and you're absolutely right. And I find that dealerships that usually have a mixed bag of people didn't have a clearly defined process and technology. So mm-hmm. they weren't able to kind of reverse engineer backwards, right? Like, look, and by the way, today, if you're watching this or listening to this right now, and your processes are not on a piece of paper, you don't have a process. And there's absolutely no effing excuse whatsoever. I mean, there's so many tools out there. Yeah, you could go to ChatGPT right now and help me write a process for how we're going to answer the phone, and it will spit one out for you. And all you got to do is make some modifications.
There's zero excuse to not have a process.
You're right. There's absolutely no excuse.
A written process, to your point, yes.
Not to have a documented process. And then what I find is you got to make sure the technology is complementing that process. Because the worst thing you can do is and you've seen this happen. We've all done it. I did it. I bought into some jazz fingers fancy thing, and now I have to create new processes just for the stupid thing to actually use. Right?
Yeah.
you effing kidding me? I already had no, but no. If we have very well documented processes and then technologies to support that, now we can reverse engineer back to the people, because the people are ultimately going to be the ones that execute it. So now the way we look at our people, the way we coach our people, the way we develop our people are towards the usage of those process and technology. And dude, you've seen departments when they're doing that. Woo! Boy, oh boy, I get
they're humming. And
drool.
yeah, no, they're humming, they're killing it. And your people, your technology, to your point, your technology, you should never develop processes to prop up your technology.
Exactly. Technology should be there to support it.
Yeah, technology is a supportive tool. Technology is a tool. Process is a way, and people are executing that. And those other two parts of that tripod that you were talking about, the people is the strength portion of that. But those other two have to be able to complement those people and give them the rules. People want rules. People want rules.
They want. I watch my kids put together their Legos, and my middle son, he's around 10 or 11. Dude, he's putting together some pretty seriously complicated Legos. I mean, this isn't the Legos I had when I was a kid. You know what I mean? Like, we're talking like thousands of pieces.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Parts, all kinds of stuff, and he's doing this from a book with no words. So that's why I push back on anybody out there that says, "Wow, the process." I'm like, dude, have you picked up a Lego book?
Great. Like, that's killer.
Right? No words whatsoever, and someone can create something incredibly complicated.
But think about it. Think about it. If you didn't have that, my kids did Legos too. I did Legos with my kids, and think about it. If somebody gave you a bag of Legos and said, "I need you to build me a Star Destroyer,"
sure,
you would get and you would get 7 different Star Destroyers, and none of them would be what what looked like on the box.
Not a chance in hell.
There's no process. There's no plan. But who's building it? You're not. The plan isn't building it. The Legos are the technology. They're not building it. It's the people building it with the aid of that process.
100%. See, so look, guys, if you're out there watching, listening, do an MPI on yourself. All right. Make sure it covers your people, your process, and your technology. And, you're going to see some really great results. And, to Joe's point, like you said earlier, I mean, you might find out some shit you didn't know was going on.
I sure did, man.
All right. I want to get to our last topic because I know we're getting towards the tail end of our conversation. And this one I kind of saved. Like, dude, honestly, this could be a whole podcast just in itself. But I love it. And I will talk about it all day long. And I think it's so timely right now. So retention versus loyalty. I know there's all kinds of different ways we can attack this, but just when you hear the retention versus the loyalty, what are some of your initial thoughts on kind of this?
Retention is a number. It's on a scorecard, and people play to that number. Mm-hmm. Loyalty is cars through the door over and over and over because you're servicing them properly in such a way that they not only want to, but feel compelled to return to your business. Retention.
That sounds better, doesn't it? Shouldn't I want more of that, Joe?
Yeah. Retention means they came back within a certain amount of time. They came back in 2 times. Here, there are manufacturers out there, and there's quite a few of them that measure retention, and they include retention in bonuses and that sort of stuff, or inventory, all of that. But they don't see what the value of those customers coming in or why they're coming in. It's a VIN check. You are checking a box. You are not servicing that customer. And what happens too much is that dealers try to do that. They just check the box so they can get the score that they need in order to make the owner happy. Or what they can do is they can utilize the tools, get that customer back in, blow their mind.
Yeah.
So they want to come back and get service because you're their car guy.
You know what's funny? Here's the thing. And we talked a little bit about this, right? I've talked to a lot of, fixed ops directors and managers out there. And, when it comes to retention, oh man, we're good. See the report on my manufacturer? I'm like,
Exactly.
top 5 in my market, baby. And it's so funny. It's like, it's kind of like I don't know. I don't know if OEMs did this intentionally or they didn't do it intentionally. They created a problem they shouldn't have created. All right. But when we're only measuring something based on the time of the warranty is active, that's horrible. I mean, Joe, we were talking about this earlier. What's the current stat of it's ridiculous. When the warranty expires,
we lose 70%. We retain 30%. 30 to 35% is standard what we retain after warranty. It drops dramatically. It's like going off a cliff.
dude. I mean, that's insane. I mean, just anybody out there watching, listening, just take a moment here. All right. And you tell me, as any person that is responsible for a business, if you're losing 70% of your customers and you're not doing anything about it, it's a freaking problem.
It is. It's crazy. And the worst part is that we measure based off of if you're keeping 40%, you're doing a great job.
That's crazy.
No, you're not. You're just the tallest midget. You're not doing a good job. Doing a good job is maintaining those customers. Sorry, you might have to edit that out.
No, I'm keeping that one in, but that is literally. But you're right. You're right. You're 100. Good one. But no, dude, you're totally right. I mean, you're totally right. I mean, like you're measuring yourself off of like it's a subpar metric. That's what it is, right? It's like great, you're mediocre, all right, and you're the best at being mediocre. Congratulations. Like
participation trophy, super good. Hope you do well with it. Keep going.
Now, look, I think there's all kinds of reasons why we have less loyalty and more retention. But I'd love to kind of get your thoughts. I mean, I definitely think there's some marketing reasons for it. I mean, I look at all of the marketing we send out there. There's nothing there that would make me want to be loyal. Just retain it. But anyways, like I said, I think this could be a whole podcast. But what would you say, maybe one or two things, all right, that could help someone to get away from just retaining, but actually creating loyal customers? What are a couple of things you would recommend?
The dealers need to lose arrogance. They are arrogant because they're the dealer. How many times when you're talking, when you hear a trainer go into a store and he's telling the advisors how to, and they use this word, upsell the customer. They say, well, make sure you use factory trained technicians. I don't think that really freaking matters to customers. I think what matters is that these techs know what they're doing.
Exactly.
Lose the arrogance, lose all that. These customers don't have to come back to you. Treat them like the clients that they deserve, because we know that they got to come back. Hey, man, don't worry, they'll have another recall. They're going to have to come back and see me. Well, no, they're not. Oh, I got proprietary information. They're going to have to come back and see me. Stop it. Don't take them for granted. Don't treat them like cattle. Treat them like clients. Treat them like guests. Treat them like the Ritz-Carlton where they want to come back to you.
Dude, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think that is probably one of the biggest things. If you're going to go down the path of creating loyal customers, that arrogance does have to go away. Look, the client does have options. In fact, I mean, it's funny. They have more options on the fixed op side than they have on the sales side. I know on the sales side, we love talking about, if you're a Nissan dealer, you love talking about the other Nissan dealer across town or whatever it is, right? And I think somebody said it recently. I don't remember what the stat was, but it's something that was like 13 or 16 non-franchise entities in your market area going after the same oil change. And they
within
your ad budget than you do.
It's within 5 miles of your dealers.
There you go. 5 miles.
You could have 15 to 16 dealers. And if you expand that out, you've got 60 independent shops in a metro area trying to take your customers away. And why are they doing that? Because you didn't treat them right when they were under warranty, when you had the opportunity.
Damn straight. That's the mic drop right there, Joe. You didn't do it when you had the opportunity, and now you're going to try to play catch up. Good luck. Good luck.
Yeah, agreed.
Anyways, look, I know we're at the tail end of our conversation, Joe. This is so much fun. We're definitely going to have to do another one of these again, because I think, just like I said, the whole retention versus loyalty is just an entire podcast on itself. But I love the fact that we covered, just the need for leadership in fixed ops, and the idea, guys, if you're out there watching, you got to do an MPI on your own service department, right? And I just think it'd be wildly helpful and huge for your operations. Hey, Joe, for everybody out there watching, listening right now, who would love to, maybe continue or connect with you and just continue maybe some parts of today's conversation, what's the best way to connect with you?
The best way is LinkedIn. DM me on LinkedIn. It's Joe Chambers. Also, Service Drive Live.
Yes.
Service Drive Live. We have a show. It's a open room format every week. It's on Sunday mornings, which is a little bit crazy, but we found that disrupts family time the least. And we've been going strong for 5 years now. And I mean, that's a great way to get in. We're going to be planning live events coming up. So we want to see people. We embrace it on Service Drive Live. So you can look up Service Drive Live on LinkedIn, on Instagram, working on Facebook. I've got some technical difficulties with that. But, primarily get a hold of Joe Chambers at LinkedIn.
Dude, that's awesome. Hey, guys, and I really do encourage you because Joe's just one of those guys. He's a great guy, very approachable, and you do definitely have to check out the show on Sundays. I heard it can get a little rowdy at times.
Just a little.
Just a little. Hey, for everybody out there watching and listening, we thank you. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch all the way to the end here. Hey, one of the biggest compliments that you can give myself or Joe, or really any content creator out there, is share the show. Like it means so much to us when you share the show. It really does. If you got a manager or an advisor or anybody, a colleague that needs to hear some portion of today's conversation, the biggest compliment you could ever give us is share the show. Hey, thank you so much, Joe. This has been an absolute blast for everybody out there. We appreciate you. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Thanks a lot, Jason. Appreciate you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Strategy with Jason podcast with your host, Jason Harris. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Happy podcasting.